Here's a story from the Post-Millennial. State Department officially notifies Congress of USAID closure. I'm down for it. The State Department officially notified Congress that the U.S. Agency for International Development has been dissolved, and the remaining operations of the agency will be run by the State Department itself. According to United Press International, State Department officially told Congress that USAID was dissolving on Friday. Secretary of State Mark Rubio said in a statement today, the Department of State and the U.S. Agency for International Development have notified Congress of their intent to undertake a reorganization that would involve realigning certain USAID functions to the department by July 1st, 2025, and discontinuing the remaining USAID functions that do not align with administration priorities. This is massive. I think the reason they're doing it is because Congress basically passes a bill saying you have to have these certain functions. And so if they can accomplish those tasks set forth by Congress through the State Department, they shut down USAID, which for those who don't know, has been accused of basically funneling hundreds of billions of dollars to activist organizations, lawyers, and political outfits to fund establishment shill politicians. So along with this, Donald Trump's citizenship requirement for voting, it looks like, Trump's march to the sea on the deep state is ramping up.
In progress.
Right.
It's a battle for sure. Without the help of Congress, it's going to be for naught at some point. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what you guys are going to miss the most from USAID. Is it going to be the CIA overthrowing governments and then installing new ones that people like me have to go fight in 20 to 25 years? Or is it the 11 out of the 13 Ukrainian media companies that are funded by it? Right? It's hard to tell which one's going to be the bigger hit to my own personal entertainment.
Somebody will one day be like, I miss the days of the color revolutions in other countries.
Yeah. Or is it like you kind of alluded to it as well? There's this circular feature to the USAID funding where money comes out of your wallet and it goes to USAID and then it goes to a foreign country and then it somehow ends up in the hands of some enemy adversary that ends up being spent back here on Antifa, BLM, and so forth, right?
Indeed.
It's weird to fund. It's like digging your own grave, I guess, right? Which is something that you see in bad Western movies mostly.
Right.
But now it's just kind of been our reality for the last 70 years, and we had no idea.
I look at it like Capital City in the Hunger Games. Basically, these are people who don't have to work. The machine takes from everybody else to fund and feed them. Have you ever spent any time in Loudoun County, Virginia?
Oh yeah,
it is a magical place.
Yeah,
magical
is one way to put it. Yeah.
Oh, but I mean, like when you understand that it's all military-industrial contractors, lawyers, and behind every smile is someone funding or helping to bomb children in foreign countries they never declared war on. Yeah. You go to the park and they're singing Disney songs, and they're eating delicious food, and it looks like magic. But I imagine that if you could see into the souls of these people, not all of them, a lot of them are actually fans, but going down there and seeing just how beautiful everything is and knowing what funds it. Oh, man.
I literally
like
had
Tyson's, for instance.
I had a tweet like 2 weeks ago that says driving through Loudoun County is crazy because what do you mean you built a castle next to a gas station? Which is basically what it's like. It's like there's huge, just massive properties next to small businesses. And you realize that driving through anywhere through Virginia, you're basically being propped up by all of the money that we, the taxpayers, have dumped back into it.
I wonder what's going to happen to this place. Loudoun's a big county, so it's not just like one town, right? You got Leesburg, there's Tyson's I mentioned, but Tyson's Corner is a crazy shopping center. And the money for all of this, not all of it, but a lot of it, is military-industrial complex, political lawyers, USAID funding, EPA funding, slush funds. It really doesn't seem like it's legitimate.
No, I mean, it's like art. It's all a fake shell game to make money. But that's what government is, right? Government, no matter how noble, I guess, its intentions, and it's not always noble, but even when it's in its best form, eventually becomes an engine to extract labor and wealth from the population. That's really what it is, right?
And that's gotten harder the larger the government has grown over time, which is why they're fighting so
right?
which is why they're fighting so hard.
Exactly. So that's why we created this. You know, government is if you look at government as an experiment over the course of human history, you can kind of see how it matures just like a human being would, right? It starts in this rudimentary phase that doesn't make a lot of sense, in the same way that our religions have evolved as well. So it starts where we see the natural forces that are happening. We're like, oh, that must be something bigger and more powerful than myself. So earthquakes, that's God. Lightning, that's God. The sun, the moon, all this stuff. And then you get a little bit farther down the rabbit hole in religion, and you start to ascribe like social controls to it, right? And when I say social controls, I mean like the aspects of human nature: love, hate, war, wine, whatever, right? And then you get a little farther down, you start to get to monotheism, which is like it's an individual with a personality, and really it's a mirror of yourself. That's the point of it, right? In the same way you see government as an experiment that happens over time. We tried this, we tried that. The Athenians, for example, tried a direct democracy for 2 years, and they were like, nope, this is stupid. You guys are too dumb. We can't do this. And then they tried some other stuff like representation without pay. So they had basically like a Congress, but no pay. And what they found was that only rich people were able to serve. So they only took care of rich people, right? So you had to make it such. And that's why, you know, when Congress asked for a raise, I'm like, yeah, do your job and I'll consider it, right? Yeah. But you can see it kind of grow up over time. And that's why we know that it's an experiment, because you can look, it is a testable hypothesis. Does communism work? No. We know it doesn't. So when if anybody starts talking about communism or socialism, you can be like, hey, let me stop you right there, bud. I don't ever need to hear anything you say again, ever. Because you're not a smart person.
I mean, we talked about this the other night. The funny thing about communism is that its fundamental precept is basic arithmetic that is wrong. So when they say from each according to their ability to each according to their need, you're basically saying we've got 10 people in a room. Half of them consume more than they produce. The other half sustain themselves. It's like, okay, that's called net negative. Yeah. And you will all starve to death. And then when you do that basic, 1 plus -1 equals 0, you realize if you implement communism, everyone dies. And then surprisingly to these people, whenever they try communism, everybody starves.
Yeah, it's wild how that works out. And so back to the point, even in the noblest form of government, which is the one we have, I think, still it doesn't scale indefinitely. It can't. That's why we created federalism, to send power back to the lowest possible level. That makes the most sense. But even then it doesn't work because we don't operate it in that way. And that's because of all of us, by the way. And I don't mean just the 5 of us in this room, just every American who thought it was okay to, because I have an iPad and Hot Pockets, to not pay attention to what's going on with my money in Washington. And we did that for a very long time. Eisenhower warned us about it in the 50s, and we paid no attention to him. Right? We just kind of went on about our business and let it grow and grow and grow. And now it's going to be very difficult to unseat some of this stuff.
And one of the things I find most interesting, like USAID and like Doge is kind of exposing right now, is people have been propagandized so much by these organizations that are likely funded from institutions with our tax dollars, that they've propagandized people into believing that firing inefficient government employees is actually a bad thing. And you're seeing the death throes of that last 70 years of poor, inefficient government, but fantastic propaganda, reeling its ugly head and showing people that they don't really understand the scale of which the rot is within the government.
And then there's a part of it that's like a weaponization of our better natures. You know what I mean? Empathy is a good thing. So we need, this is something that people need to start understanding and acting on. It is the folks in power who are performing this magician's patter to make you think you should hate the left or you should hate the right, right? The reality is that the left and the right don't exist anymore, and that we have to hate the people who did that to us. That's got to be the first mission. And that is like, we need justice and we need empathy from the left. We need laws and we need strength from the right. We need these things in the same way that we need men and women to raise a child, right? That's just a fact of nature. And we've allowed these... usually on my show there would be a string of bad words right here. We've allowed these people to completely dominate, as you say, propagandize the dialogue now, where when somebody posits some left position, and you have to understand that from them they're like, there's this impetus to want to take care of people, right? And as a man that's on the right side of things, my idea of taking care of people is teaching them how to fish, not giving them one, right? And also giving them the means to protect themselves and the information to protect themselves, not to coddle them. But not everybody is a man on the right. Some people need to be coddled sometimes, children, for example, right? And we need that feminine presence, and we can't have it, right? If these people are left in charge of the public discourse, if they're allowed to say, because you want to own guns, you don't care about kids dying, right? If they're allowed to say that without repercussion from their own side, the left has to step in and say, hey, that's wrong. These are good people, right?
But they
just happen to disagree with you.
They weaponize toxic levels of empathy, usually on an out-group bias, because they push for laws rather than taking care of things within their own home, right?
Yeah, and that's the secret sauce there, to be honest, because when the government shows up to your neighborhood and nobody's got their hand out, they got no power there. Right. So if you want this decentralized government, if you want this lowest level possible, if you want federalism, if you want this dream that Jefferson had to be a reality, you better go down the street and take care of your neighbor before the government shows up to do it. Otherwise, you're not doing your job and you have no right to complain about anything that's going on.
I think there's a middle ground in the either you teach them to fish or give them a fish. I think you can give them a fishing pole. You know what I mean?
Let them figure it out.
No, it's like we can teach them to fish, but you find a guy who's got no fishing pole and you say, look how I use my, how I cast the bait or whatever. And they're going to look at you and be like, that'd be great if I had one of those. So there's a middle ground of the help that we provide in society is to give you the opportunity to help yourself. We don't just say, hey, look at me, I can do it, why can't you?
Right.
We say, okay, like, let me give you a boost. Here's how you do it. Figure it out. But the left goes all in. Here's a bucket of fish. Have fun. We took it from that guy.
Yeah.
And now this person's like, I don't even got a fish. I just get it for free.
Well, and we just had that, literally the discussion was last week. It was about soda and EBT, and the discussion came about like what items should be on EBT. And I think a lot of people would rather have a discussion, as much as important as that is looking to weed out fraud in divisions like that, the idea of limits on the amount of time you can be on those programs. But even having that discussion, a lot of the times with people who have certain beliefs in just how powerful government should be, or at least unlimited power in helping people because they see it as a virtuous cause, they don't want to have that discussion at all. But I would like to believe that most moderates do want to at least be able to have that debate. Even if you don't believe that everybody should be on food stamps all the time, you should believe in some type of responsible federal government.
Yeah. Well, there's a saying that I liked. It's hard to hate up close, right? Yeah. So it's easy to it's easy to create this caricature of your enemy that exists in your head and hate them on Twitter or from afar. But when you see somebody that's hungry up close, that's quite a bit more difficult, right? And there is, regardless of what your politics are, there is some impetus to be like, hey, I need to help this person. There's no way that, like, if you're like a patriot and you believe in America and what it is, then you want it to be the best, right? This is just like standard broken window theory stuff. If I want my country to be the best, then I damn sure better put some effort into that. Otherwise, I have no claim to its goodness. How could I? Like, every now and again, you'll hear these people like, "Oh, we won World War II." Like, "Oh, you were there, huh?" Like, what have you done lately for this country, right? And it doesn't. There's a lot of ways to serve. I was in the military, but it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be police or fire, or EMS, or first responder stuff at all. You can serve your community by taking care of the people that are closest to you, because that's your job to do it, right?
And for me, I think what's interesting about that is like I said, I think that both sides have this impetus to the right these days wants as little federal government as possible, which I tend to agree with for the most part. And most people aren't focusing on their state level government anyways. They're too interested in the pro wrestling nature of federal politics these days, right? But when it comes to the left, they don't really see value politically on the left. There isn't inherent value placed on the family. So they look at the government as a surrogate to the family, where they then say, dump in all the money, put in all the resources there so that we can take care of people, without actually trying to operate under the premise that there are steps that you can do to alleviate all of that start at home.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.